afternoon. This is Roger Erickson, Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Lake Charles. This is the 4 p.m. Tropical Storm Cindy update. And our opening slide that we're going to show is our situational overview. Cindy is still expected to make landfall late tonight or early Thursday morning near the Texas-Louisiana state line as a weak tropical storm. Tropical storm warnings and flash flood watch is continuing still. We've trimmed the tropical storm warning this afternoon. We'll have to make a graphic for that later on today. Heavy rain and above normal tides. Hold on a second. People aren't getting the line. I got everyone here for us.
I want to make sure y'all got my appeal.
The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press #6.
So we're looking at the same storyline. Heavy rain, above normal tides, gusty winds, and a few tornadoes. And we're going to get a little more specific because obviously the storm's getting closer to the landfall. We're seeing a lot more things that are coming clear to us. The first one is looking at the infrared satellite imagery. The low pressure areas there off of our coast. You notice there's a large area of orange that's extending across southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana into the Gulf Coast. That's actually a cluster of showers and thunderstorms on the northwest quadrant of the system that's going to be moving onshore over the next several hours. We're going to be talking about how much rainfall we're expecting with that in the next couple of slides. You do notice there's still that dry slot off to the east. That's covering basically our Atchafalaya area, perhaps Baton Rouge area, and then another heavy rain band extending across the Louisiana-Mississippi state line over towards Mobile and extending out in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's what the radar picture looks like. You can see a large band of rain off of our coast of southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. This was taken about half an hour ago, so it was moving onshore already in Vermilion Parish and portions of Cameron Parish, starting to try to get up to the I-10 corridor. There's another rain band that's further north you can see across central Louisiana, and then the much larger one that extends across southeast Louisiana, southern Mississippi, parts of southern Alabama as well. All this activity is expected to move onshore tonight as Cindy moves onshore tonight. So a lot of people have been wondering, are we really going to get this big rain that Roger's been talking about? And so here's a radar depiction of how much rain has fallen so far. Now the good news is you can see this big bullseye of rain has been occurring offshore of the Cameron coast, where they've got upwards of 13 inches of rain actually out there. Some of that rain is expected to move onshore later on this evening into the overnight hours. So that's what we're concerned about, not right now, but within, I'd say, the 3 to 6 hour window, probably 7 to 10 o'clock windows, when we're expecting the activity to really be ramping up across portions of southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. As these heavier rain bands come onshore, we're expecting that 3 to 5 inch rainfall. And depending on how long it sits in the area, we've got the potential still for it to end up being closer to 10 inches. So we'll be monitoring this, watching it very closely as we go through the evening hours, and we'll be issuing flash flood warnings when they become necessary throughout the evening hours. The next graphic shows the wind gusts that we've seen so far today. It hasn't gone all the way up to tropical storm force yet, which is 39 miles an hour, except for offshore. We basically are in a 25 to 40 mile an hour range along the I-10 corridor south of the coast today. But with these rain bands moving onshore, these wind gusts are going to be kicking up to tropical storm force at any time. And I wouldn't be surprised if this changes here within the next hour or two for coastal areas of Cameron and Vermilion parishes and perhaps even Jefferson County. Here's the latest forecast track for Cindy. This is the 4 p.m. advisory. It's at 28.2 north, 93.2 west, and it's moving northwest at 9 miles an hour with still holding out at 50 mile an hour wind speeds. You can see the first letter S that's near the coastline. That forecast point is for 1 a.m. So you see it's literally off the coast of the Texas-Louisiana state line at 1 a.m. So we're expecting a landfall late tonight and early Thursday morning. That's the time frame of when this is making landfall. By 1 o'clock, it'll be up towards Toledo Bend, 1 p.m. on Thursday. So it's going to be moving that far from the middle of the night into tomorrow afternoon. So with that being said, we're still expected elevated or moderate threat from the rainfall and flooding. I've had to increase the surge threat as well because we are having more and more water piling up along the coast. And we're going to talk about that after we get through the wind slides. I kind of tweaked some of the timing of the wind speeds for the southeast and southwest Louisiana area. This is the timing of the winds coming into southeast Texas, basically starting at any time for Jefferson and Orange County, and then later this evening for inland areas like Hardin, Jasper, Newton, and Tyler counties. And you see that the timing for the end of the winds basically should be by noontime at the latest to maybe 2 o'clock in our northern area of northern Jasper, northern Newton, and Tyler counties tomorrow. Over in Louisiana, we're still expecting the winds to be kicking in at any time for Calcasieu and Cameron Parish, as well as Vermilion, St. Mary parishes. That's expected to start at any time for the wind gusts of tropical storm force winds. The remainder of the area will be expanding as well later on this evening. The further north you go, the later that will occur. So places like, for instance, Rapides Parish will be probably after midnight before we see the tropical storm force winds that far north. But the timing of the end of these winds, you can see a lot of 9 a.m. to noon time frames for Thursday, a little bit later perhaps for the northern areas like Vernon and Rapides parishes, because they'll be closer to the center of circulation when it's up there by the middle of the day. Now we're going on to the tides. You can see the tides for both Sabine Pass and Calcasieu Pass are still running rather high right now. They're both running between 3.5 to 4.5 feet across the area. That's pretty significant flooding for the areas, especially down in Cameron Parish. We're looking at probably at least a foot of water in portions of certain sections of Cameron Parish right now. You notice we're going to a low tide here over the next several hours, but we are looking at a high tide coming in, give or take midnight to 3 a.m. And so that's the window that we're going to be really focusing on for when we're going to have the high danger for storm surge coming in along the coast. We're still advertising a 3-foot storm surge, and so if you think about that, if the forecasted high tides are around 2 feet, we're actually forecasting the actual elevation to be up around 5 foot mean low water. If you remember back to 1998 with Tropical Storm Francis, that's a little bit less than what we saw during Francis in 98. So we are expecting the low-lying areas to be flooding around the Sabine Pass, Port Arthur areas, obviously south of Port Arthur, low-lying areas near Bridge City and Cameron Parish, downtown Cameron, and the low sections in 82 on the either side of Holly Beach. Same thing over further to our east. We're looking in Pecan Island, Intercoastal City, Delcombe areas for Vermilion parishes, Alberia Parish as well, and Sycamore Point, Burns Point down into St. Mary Parish. The timing for the higher tides over there is the same thing we're looking at later on this evening after midnight. So it's going to be the dangerous timing here of a high tide coming in after midnight when it's dark out, kind of windy out there. It's going to be very difficult to see how high the water is on the road. So we really want to make sure people are aware of the dangers associated with these high tides for these coastal communities late tonight. The rainfall totals, we really aren't changing a storyline here. We're still looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain locally. If a rain band sets up across a certain area for several hours, the potential exists for it to be over 10 hours or 10 inches, similar to what we've seen already out there in the Gulf of Mexico today. Fortunately, it was over the water, it wasn't over land. So that's what we'll be monitoring very closely, like I said, for southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana in the evening hours tonight. The tornado risk has been trimmed a little bit for today and tonight. You can see it's basically Jeff Davis Parish, Allen Parish eastward for tonight. And then Thursday it expands a little bit further to the west. In fact, right now we do have a tornado watch that's in effect until 7 p.m. It does include, looks like, portions of Vermilion Parish as well as Acadia Parish and Evangeline Parish. We'll be monitoring that to see if they have to upgrade and include this further to the west for the rain bands that are moving on shore later on this evening here in southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. So for our summary sheet, we are still expecting that landfall late tonight, early Thursday morning near the state line, and we're expecting the heavy rain above normal tide and gusty winds. We've got a slide here that basically summarizes the expansion of what we're looking at, the 3 to 5 inches of rain with locally higher amounts of 10 inches possible through tonight through Thursday, with the tides running 1.5 to 3 feet above normal through Thursday. Tornadoes, slight risk for tornadoes as well through the forecast area through tomorrow. And the winds, we're expecting these tropical storm force wind gusts to begin at any time near the coast and extend inland throughout the night before weakening by midday Thursday. So here's the plan. I'm going to do another one of these webinars and conference calls this evening at 7 p.m. By 7 o'clock, we should see where the rain bands moved onshore and exactly what's going on. I'll give you a feel for what's going on at that point. We'll have a new forecast point from the Hurricane Center as well on Cindy. The forecast itself more than likely won't change, but at least we'll get a feel for exactly where it is at that point. So that's a little change in plans that we're going to be doing another one of these calls and conference calls, webinars at 7 p.m. tonight. So I'm going ahead and unmuting the phone lines here. Does anyone have any other questions for us?
We'll take it.
Any questions?
Roger, this is Lisa in St. Landry. This dry pocket of air that's kind of been sitting over our region here, specifically, St. Landry, it seems like we've been in the clear most of the day with the rain. Are we still anticipating this is going to kind of set, or is the rain going to start filling in, overtaking that dry pocket of air?
I think St. Landry Parish is going to be on the border of it. You guys could go either way with it, honestly. You could stay in that little weak area where there's nothing, but just to your east, you can see there's a pretty significant rain band that's developing. Looks like it's Baton Rouge northward. So that's the potential for that area to expand and move northwest into St. Landry Parish later on this evening. It started with a small shower south of Baton Rouge. Right now, it looks like it's just west of Baton Rouge, coming into the Atchafalaya Basin. That's going to be the focus for the area for you guys. So we do expect that shower area to expand in coverage and come into St. Landry Parish over the next several hours.
Okay, thank you.
Roger, Becky and Vermillion.
Yes.
When do you figure the rains will stop? Will they continue into Friday and Saturday, or will they stop after the storm passes?
Well, that's a good point. The forecast track you can see here on Friday 1 a.m. Friday, it's up in Arkansas. Friday afternoon, it's in Tennessee. Even with it being that far away, we are thinking that there could still be some rain bands that would extend down to our area. I don't think we're going to have widespread rain, but I think there'll be a rain band in the area. We don't know who's going to be getting hit by it, but someone has a shot for getting a rain band in the state on Friday. But unfortunately, I don't have a good feel at this stage of the game to know exactly what parishes are going to get hit by it. We'll have to monitor that as we get closer to it. And, we'll have a better feel perhaps tomorrow on whether or not it's going to be Vermillion Parish or somewhere else.
All right, thank you.
Roger, this is Joey Pons in Lafayette. The graphic you provided for wind timings for tropical storm force winds by the parishes, particularly Lafayette and Iberia, St. Martin Parish, that has changed since this morning. Just confirming that graphic is for gusts only, right? Not sustained winds.
Right. This is a gust timing. The sustained winds will be for a much shorter duration.
Right, so just looking at the graphic, it looks like by mid-morning tomorrow, things should be calming down for us. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, and then secondly, I guess echoing my friend from St. Landry's question regarding rainfall, do you think it's safe to say that by the morning commute, the rains are going to be settling down a little bit for us in Lafayette and Iberia?
No, I think there'll still be rain bands across.
Okay, well, they're going to have more people ask the same questions again, so we'll get Andy up here. We will be here at 7 o'clock tonight if any of you want to come for the 7 o'clock briefing. I might have to tell Roger to talk faster, though, because it'll be interrupting the LSU baseball game. So, Andy.
I should have texted him about that. I knew he was going to. You have it on the screen. Split screen.
Never. I have to check with the police jury president to see if that's authorized. The mayor wants to know if we'll have the LSU ball game up here on these screens. We are under emergency, so you do have some extra. Okay, Andy.
who do they play? Do they play FSU? Okay, well, I have a lot of friends that go there, so I'm not going to say anything. I guess one of the things, and this was actually brought forth in the questions regarding, okay, we have this dry air coming in. Just a few things to note. Yes, there was a lot of, I would say precipitation-free area over the state while the system was south into the Gulf. As Cindy moves further north, that's probably all about to change. And even if we do get some breaks in the clouds, so to speak, the air is going to be very unstable. It's not going to take much to produce showers and thunderstorms. So it doesn't even over south central Louisiana, southwest Louisiana. So especially once Cindy moves north. If you look at some of the satellite and even some of the radar from let's say this one, and I'm comparing it a little bit to Tropical Storm Bill a couple years ago. One of the things about Bill was the fact that it went pretty far north, but actually had a pinwheel effect where there was a lot of rain that built further south. Maybe you recall, Dick, over the Jasper, Newton area, a band of 10 plus inches, pretty good, healthy band fell from that. That's something we're going to have to monitor, as Roger mentioned. I think Friday around 1 p.m. it was going to be over the Memphis area. We're going to have to see how the rain bands evolve. Even that, it could potentially go this far south. So that's one of the things to do. And I know that we are going to have fairly high rain chances in our forecast Friday and even into Saturday. Perhaps we might lower them a little bit on Sunday, but this once Cindy moves north, a very tropical air mass is going to be in place. So we could have some organized rainfall somewhere. And with the winds coming from the south, even below tropical storm force winds, the tides are going to stay up. So that's going to, again, affect drainage as we talked about earlier. So that's just something to keep in mind, even though we're probably going to be out of the woods as far as significant tides and significant winds from this come later tomorrow. We are going to have to pretty much monitor the rainfall threat, and I would say at least into Friday and Saturday. So we're probably at least going to avoid a lot of the normal tropical weather effects, but the rainfall, which we normally have to deal with a lot anyways, even if it's in absence of a tropical system, we're going to have to keep an eye on, at least for several days. Any questions?
Are we gonna have a meeting tomorrow?
Well, Roger will have another briefing at 10.
I think we're gonna. I'll text him, but I think the plan is to have a 10 a.m. meeting. We are not, or 10 a.m. webinar. We'll probably not have. He normally has this 2:30 webinar on Thursdays, so I think we're going to plan on that, but no 4 p.m. webinar.
Okay. 10 a.m. And if we're not, we'll email you early and let you know.
And I think he'll obviously one of us will probably be in early to provide an update around 7 in the morning or so on the no webinar but an email update. Anyone else?
For those of you who got here early, Andy said it was going to start raining about 4 o'clock, and it did. So it's now pouring outside.